Next time you refuel, don't just stare at the numbers ticking up on the screen. Lean down a little, right at the tip of the nozzle, near the metal spout. There's a tiny hole about the size of a sewing needle, so small that if you're not paying attention, you might think it's just a scratch. And without it, every time you filled your tank, your car could turn into a gasoline fountain. Sounds funny, but imagine 40 liters of fuel, roughly 2 large water jugs you'd carry for cleaning, spraying into the hot air at a gas station. Not so amusing anymore. The strange part is that this tiny hole automatically clicks the pump off at the exact moment your tank is full. No chips, no AI, no Wi-Fi. Just pure physics. And it's been around since the 18th century. You think electricity and gasoline standing side by side sounds like a bad idea? You're absolutely right. One tiny spark is enough to cause trouble. Yet the nozzle knows precisely when the tank is full and stops before fuel spills out. How does it know? The answer sounds old-fashioned but incredibly clever. The Venturi effect. The name sounds fancy, but it's basically like when you used to blow across the mouth of an empty bottle as a kid. When liquid flows through a narrow section of pipe, its speed increases and the pressure drops. Still confusing. Picture squeezing part of a garden hose, the water shoots out faster. Inside the nozzle, fuel rushes through at high speed, creating a low-pressure zone like a gentle suction. That suction pulls air through the tiny hole. As long as air keeps flowing in, the internal system keeps breathing normally. But when gasoline rises and reaches the tip of the nozzle, it seals that tiny hole. Suddenly, air has nowhere to go. The pressure changes. Instantly, a small vacuum chamber forms inside the nozzle. Imagine covering the top of a straw and lifting it. The liquid stays put because pressure holds it in place. Inside the pump, that pressure collapses a mechanical diaphragm and releases a locking latch. Click. The handle pops up. The fuel stops flowing in less than a fraction of a second. Everything happens faster than a blink about zero. 1 second quicker than you even realize you heard the sound. Here's the fascinating part. The entire process doesn't require a single electrical current at the tip of the nozzle. No circuit, no electronic sensors. Nothing that could generate a spark in a place where sparks are the ultimate enemy. Engineers deliberately rely on pure mechanics to control one of the most flammable substances on Earth. Gasoline evaporates at room temperature. When gasoline vapor mixes with air at just 1-7%, it becomes a combustible mixture. In other words, a vapor cloud no bigger than a coffee cup, if mixed correctly in an enclosed space, can be enough to ignite. And yet, we stand right there, holding our phones, waiting for the tank to fill. Pretty confident, aren't we? But wait, if that tiny hole is so important, why doesn't it fail all the time? Have you ever seen a nozzle shut off even when the tank wasn't full yet? Yes, and that usually happens when the system gets fooled by fuel foam. When gasoline flows too fast or the car's tank design has sharp bends, turbulence creates foam. The foam reaches the nozzle tip before the actual fuel level rises. The system thinks the tank is full and stops early. It's not because it's stupid. It's because it's extremely sensitive. It reacts to the hole being blocked, whether by liquid fuel or bubbles. Mechanics don't lie, they simply respond to pressure. There's another small detail most people never notice. When you squeeze the handle, you're opening a main valve that allows fuel to flow. But that valve is always ready to snap shut if the vacuum chamber activates. In other words, the safety mechanism is designed to favor closing over opening. Sound familiar? In engineering, this philosophy is called fail-safe. If something goes wrong, it should fail in the safest possible way. If there's any issue, it's better to cut off the fuel than let it keep pouring. A small design decision, backed by decades of safety standards refined after real accidents in the past. Let's return to that tiny hole. It doesn't just save you from spilling gasoline on your shoes. It uses classic mechanical principles to control flammable liquid in crowded public spaces. Something that looks so plain you might mistake it for a manufacturing defect is actually a silent hero. Some inventions don't need touchscreens or artificial voices to be smart. They're smart because they understand physics. Next time you hear that familiar click and feel the handle snap back, try to smile. You've just witnessed an 18th century physics lesson working perfectly in the 21st century. No drama. No bragging, just quietly doing its job. Millions of times every day around the world. And who knows if you enjoy stories like this, where a tiny detail turns out to hold life-saving power. Maybe we can keep exploring how many ordinary objects around us are secretly playing hero. Take a look around your kitchen or your car. There might be another tiny hole saving you every day without you ever noticing.